Powder starts to become obsessive about this little and small issue of her not being good enough in order to join to actually a very dangerous rescue mission. And she needs a way out. She needs a way out from her own thoughts. We can see her behavior in this moment. The thoughts and the feeling are overfloating. She cannot think straight. And in those moments, I think, if she could, she will rip her own mind out just to stop thinking. And she really is looking for a way out. Looking at ARCANE Season 1, Episode 3, the relationship between Vi and Powder. Why Powder didn't stay behind as Vi asked her. The first time we see Vi in episode 3 is when we understand that she basically sacrificed herself in order to save friends and Powder and the group. She's basically surrendering herself to the enforcer. Vander is stepping in and they do not allow her to sacrifice herself and lock her up in the room in order for her to not reveal that she is the responsible for the invasion. And again we see how much being fair and fairness is important to Vi and how she is guided by this principle. And for her, she is the responsible. She cannot let Vander take the blame for her actions. And so Vi is witnessing the horror and traumatic experience again when she is basically witnessing the death of Bonzo and the violence that the Shimmer and Silco is bringing. And Vi is not the only one who witnesses. We also see in Echo, another very interesting character that seeing Vi as a source of comfort and as a motherly or parently figure. But Vi is very target focused, and when Echo tell her about Bonzo's death, she immediately asks what about Vander. The drive and to protect her loved one boiling up. Vi and the group are preparing to fight. And then come Powder. And in the first thing that we see in Powder in episode 3, we again get an example to the relationship Powder-Vi and to the parenting relationship between them, and how much Powder relax when she see Vi, and how much the presence of Vi nearby help Powder and make Powder feel safe and feel relaxed. And she immediately hug Vi, and she actually even say, Vi, you're back. And Vi shown her fear maybe, or shock by the threat that the group are about to face when her hand shaking. Powder, being so close to Vi and so connected to her, immediately sensed that, basically seeing any clue or any change in Vi emotion. Even though we see in Powder face and her fear, we know a second later her courage, how she do not let her fear guide her, and she's ready to fight as well. Because Powder is very connected to Vi, we know that Vi encouraging Powder and including her in their adventures. So for Powder, it seems obvious that she will join this fight as well. And we need to remember that Powder's sense of agency and sense of worth in the world is still connected to Vi. And in this scene, is the first time that we're hearing Vi telling Powder, wait, you're not ready for this one. This affects on Powder, damaging really hard her own sense of confidence and self-worth. When Vi telling Powder, I need you to sit this one out, we can see Powder surprised. She did not expect that. It's very surprising, it's very damaging for her. If Vi stop believe in my own capability, then nothing else left. And Powder, through her own confusion, is saying to Vi, wait, I'm not afraid. If you're telling me to stay back just because you think I'm afraid, then no, I can do it. If you say I can, then I can. The fear of being alone and the fear of not being part of the group, of not pulling your weight in the group, it's incredibly hard to take, and it's incredibly damaging to your own sense of personality. And this is what Powder is feeling. Why not allow her to be a part of this task, of this mission? Powder is saying, I want to fight, I can't help, I have my own worth, and Vi reply, you're not ready. I think for Vi here, we're talking shock, we're talking fear and confusion. She saw a traumatic event a few moments ago when Bonzo died, and she's scared and doesn't know exactly what is the right decision right now. She only knows that she needs to protect Powder, and we cannot know if it was the right decision, because on the one hand it's really not safe and it's really a different kind of monster to fight. But on the other hand, we know how much it is important to stick together in this situation and to stay as a family, united. And we can see the effect of Vi's words on Powder. She's really shocked and confused by them. Did not expect to hear that from Vi, the person who always has her back and always lifting her up, suddenly telling her right in her face, and in very crucial and important moment, Powder, you're not ready for this one. Another very sentimental part of this scene, and very emotional and I think creative part of this scene, is Vi giving Powder the torch. Powder in those moments are still in shock maybe and fuzzy and does not thinking straight, and she's basically on autopilot in those moments and just taking the torch, looking at Vi, I think only acting automatically. And the sentimental part of this scene for me is also the words that Vi is telling Powder, wherever you are, light it up and I will find you. When Powder is lighting the torch, we all, including myself, was rooting for Vi to actually found Powder in those moments. Powder left behind, she left alone to her own devices and to her own feelings, and now the part of the brains that thinking and analyzing what happened start working. The questions are starting to rise up. Why Vi did not let me join? Am I not good enough? What will happen to the group if I'm not there? Powder start to become obsessive about this little and small issue of her not being good enough in order to join to actually a very dangerous rescue mission. And she need a way out. She need a way out from her own thoughts. We can see her behavior in this moment. The thoughts and the feeling are overfloating. She cannot think in straight. And in those moments, I think, if she could, she will rip her own mind out just to stop thinking. And she really is looking for a way out. And she find her. She find her the feeling, maybe I can help them. I have something unique, incredible, powerful. I have the bomb, the X-Tex, and I can help them. In that thought, she's cleansed and strongly leaning and holding those thoughts. That's what stop her emotion on those moments and her own anxiety. So she cleansed to that thought, that narrow and specific thought, and pack in her bag, put it on her shoulder, and go help them. When Vi, Milo, and Glaber finding Vander, we seen again an example of Vi leadership, how she's taking control of the situation, start commanding orders, very in control and very secure and emotionally stable. And we also seen Vi's bravery and how she's never fear standing up and fight. So the group in trouble. Vi is also in trouble, and Powder seeing that. Powder seeing the danger. We see a girl connection to the bombs, how she treating them as persons and maybe has her own friends, how in the moments of very high need a person can rely on superstitions and a belief. And that's why we can see Powder talking to the bombs and touching them and telling them you have to work, and she's sending the bomb in her way, thinking that she's doing something good, that she's helping her family in need. The bomb actually work, and the bomb go off. All of us who watch the show knows what comes next, how traumatic and unexpected the events that coming up next are. Glaber and Milo dying, Vander also die, and Vi is reacting very emotionally toward Powder, and Vi and Powder are separated. This scene, for me, it's one of the most iconic, the most emotional, and the most well-executed scene when it comes to understanding people, understanding children, emotion, what drive us, what cause us to do the things that we do. We can learn a lot about Milo and Glauber and how for them that was super obvious to join the cause and to help Vander. We can learn a lot even about Vander at the start of this episode when he does sacrifice himself for the group, for the children, and he surrenders himself to the enforcer. We can also learn about Vi a lot, about family, about how Vi at the start of this episode surrendered her own self to secure Powder's safety and the group safety. And we can see Powder risking her own life in order to save the group. And when the question is why Powder didn't listen to Vi and did not stay back, why Powder disobeyed Vi, for me one of the bigger reasons is how she could not bear the emotion that overflowed her when she started to think again and again the scenario of her talking to Vi and Vi telling her she's not ready. She cannot hear that, especially not from Vi. If Vi was telling her something else, if Vi was telling her something that does not hurt and jeopardize Powder's feeling of agency that comes from Vi, then I think Powder would definitely be able to stay back. For example, Vi could tell Powder, look, your job is to stay here, guard the house, and wait for Little Man or for our friends to come and tell them where we are and what is going on. Some sort of a mission. Then Powder will not need to face this turmoil of emotion when she does not understand how come Vi doesn't believe in her. And in order to get out from this storm of feeling, she had to find something to latch on. And in this scenario, that was the thinking, I can help them. I have something that can help them. I'm going to use it. Throughout the first 2 episodes, we saw how Powder's sense of confidence and sense of agency in the world are coming through Vi. Vi is telling her you can do it, and Powder is leaning on Vi for growth. And now, in this specific scenario, perhaps because Vi was in her own sense of fear and shock from seeing this shimmer monster, she's telling Powder, you're not ready, you cannot join. And this was the one thing that Powder cannot deal with right now. And she had to find a way out, and in a very interesting but traumatic way, the way out that she found was the thinking that she can help them. Her intentions was good and she thought that she can help, but the consequence, the result was catastrophic. And so the development of Vi and Powder throughout this series is incredible. And if you want to hear more, join me in my next video. Thank you for watching. Hugs and kisses.